Welcome to Mystical Tales, where we explore the profound stories and divine beings that shape the spiritual landscape of Hinduism. I'm Professor Arjun, and today we're delving into one of the most powerful and enigmatic manifestations of Lord Shiva, Kal Bhairav, the fierce guardian of time and cosmic order.
Hello, everyone. I'm Maya, and I'm thrilled to join Professor Arjun in unraveling the mysteries of Kal Bhairav. There's something both terrifying and fascinating about this deity that has captivated devotees for centuries. What exactly makes Kal Bhairav so significant in Hindu mythology?
That's an excellent question, Maya. To understand Kal Bhairav, we must first understand his name. Kal means time or death, while Bhairav derives from Biru, meaning fearsome. Together, his name essentially translates to the terribly fearsome form of time. But this fearsomeness isn't about cruelty, it's about divine clarity and cosmic justice.
So he's essentially time personified in its most raw and honest form. That's quite profound. Could you share the story of his origin? I've heard there are several versions.
Indeed, there are multiple accounts, but the most famous comes from the Shiva Purana. It begins with a dispute between Lord Brahma and Lord Vishnu about who was superior. Their argument grew so intense that Shiva manifested as a pillar of light to settle the matter.
I've heard about this pillar of light. Neither Brahma nor Vishnu could find its beginning or end, right?
Exactly. Vishnu honestly admitted he couldn't find the bottom, but Brahma dishonestly claimed he had found the top. He even convinced a Ketaki flower to falsely testify on his behalf. Shiva was outraged by this deceit, and from his anger emerged Kal Bhairav, manifesting from between his eyebrows.
So Kal Bhairav was born from divine anger against falsehood and arrogance? What happened next?
Shiva instructed Bhairav to punish Brahma for his dishonesty. In a swift, decisive action, Kal Bhairav cut off Brahma's fifth head, the one that had spoken the lie, using merely his fingernail, or in some versions, a sword.
He actually decapitated one of Brahma's heads? That's quite extreme.
It is dramatic, yes, but Hindu mythology often uses such vivid symbolism to convey deeper spiritual truths. This act represents the destruction of ego and arrogance. In the cosmic scheme of things, even creator deities like Brahma must adhere to Dharma, the universal law and truth.
I see. So it's not about physical violence, but about the inevitable destruction of falsehood and pride. What happened after Bhairav cut off Brahma's head?
The severed head of Brahma stuck to Kal Bhairav. Since he had committed Brahmahatya, the killing of a Brahmin, which Brahma symbolically represented, Bhairav was cursed to wander as a beggar, using the skull as his begging bowl. He was pursued by Brahmahatya, the female personification of this sin.
That's fascinating. Even divine beings face consequences for their actions, even when those actions serve justice?
Absolutely. The story teaches that even when performing divine duty, one must bear the responsibility of one's actions. Bhairav wandered through the three worlds, even visiting Vaikuntha, where he was honored by Vishnu and Lakshmi. But his liberation came only when he reached Kashi, today's Varanasi.
What happened in Kashi?
When Kal Bhairav arrived in Kashi, the skull finally fell from his hand, and he was freed from the sin of Brahmahatya. This is why Kashi is considered so sacred, and why Kal Bhairav became its eternal guardian, its Kotwal.
So Kal Bhairav has a special connection to Kashi. What does he represent as its guardian?
As the Kotwal of Kashi, he maintains spiritual discipline and order. Legend says that before dying in Kashi, a city known for granting liberation, souls must face Kal Bhairav's judgment. He examines their deeds and determines their fate. Those who've lived righteously pass through easily. Those who haven't must face his scrutiny.
The guardian at the threshold of liberation. That's quite powerful symbolism. Now I'm curious about his appearance and iconography. How is Kal Bhairav typically depicted?
Kal Bhairav is usually depicted with a fierce countenance, dark complexion, and blazing eyes. He wears a garland of skulls, mundamala, and is adorned with serpents. He often holds a trident, a drum, and sometimes the severed fifth head of Brahma. His vehicle is a dog, which represents loyalty and instinct.
I've noticed that many temples have him accompanied by a black dog. What's the significance of that particular association?
The dog as his vahana or vehicle is quite significant. Dogs represent loyalty, intuition, and protection. They guard boundaries, just as Bhairav guards cosmic order. This is why feeding dogs is considered a form of worship to Kal Bhairav. Many devotees, especially in places like Varanasi and Ujjain, feed stray dogs as a regular spiritual practice.
Speaking of worship, what are some of the unique aspects of worshiping Kal Bhairav? I've heard there are some unusual offerings made to him.
Yes, Kal Bhairav worship does have some distinctive elements. In temples like those in Varanasi and Ujjain, devotees offer liquor to the deity, something quite unusual in mainstream Hindu worship. This practice connects to Tantric traditions, where Bhairav holds special significance.
Alcohol as an offering. That's unexpected.
It is, but it reflects Bhairav's position outside conventional boundaries. He represents the raw, unfiltered aspects of existence, time, death, and transformation. These offerings symbolize surrendering intoxication of ego to divine consciousness. Other common offerings include black sesame seeds, coconut, and mustard oil lamps.
I understand there are actually 8 forms of Bhairav, known as Ashta Bhairav. Could you tell us about them?
The Ashta Bhairavs are 8 manifestations of Bhairav, each guarding a different direction and possessing specific powers. They are Asitanga in the east, Ruru in the southeast, Chanda in the south, Krodha in the southwest, Unmata in the west, Kapali in the northwest, Bishana in the north, and Samhara in the northeast.
Do these forms have different roles or symbolism?
Each has unique attributes and is worshipped for specific purposes. For example, Asitanga Bhairav helps develop creative skills. Ruru Bhairav enhances knowledge and prosperity. Chanda Bhairav provides energy for victory, and so on. Together, they create a protective energy field spanning all directions.
It's fascinating how elaborate and nuanced this mythology is. Now I'd like to understand the deeper spiritual significance of Kal Bhairav. Beyond the stories and imagery, what does he represent in Hindu spiritual thought?
At the most profound level, Kal Bhairav represents divine consciousness that transcends illusion. In Kashmir Shaivism, for instance, he's equated with Parabrahman, the supreme reality itself. The Vijnana Bhairava Tantra, a key text in this tradition, presents 112 meditation techniques for realizing the highest truth.
So beneath the fierce exterior lies the path to the highest spiritual realization?
Precisely. His fierceness isn't meant to frighten, but to awaken. Time, Kal, destroys all illusions eventually. In destroying Brahma's fifth head, Bhairav didn't just punish arrogance, he liberated Brahma from the bondage of ego. Similarly, Bhairav worship helps devotees confront and transcend their fears and limitations.
That makes so much sense. Is that why devotees particularly pray to him for protection from fears and obstacles?
Absolutely. Kal Bhairav is approached for protection not just from external dangers, but from internal enemies like fear, confusion, and negative thoughts. His worship encourages discipline, clarity, and courage. When you've meditated on time's inevitable passage, which Bhairav represents, suddenly everyday fears seem much less intimidating.
So, in a way, by facing the ultimate reality that Kal Bhairav represents, time, death, and transformation, we can transcend our smaller fears and attachments.
You've captured it beautifully, Maya. Bhairav's worship isn't about fear, it's about fearlessness. By confronting the most profound truths of existence, devotees develop spiritual courage.
Are there special days for worshipping Kal Bhairav?
Yes. Bhairav Ashtami, The 8th day after the full moon, especially in the month of Margashirsha, November-December, is particularly sacred. This day, known as Kal Bhairav Jayanti, celebrates his manifestation. Devotees observe fasts, perform special rituals, and many stay awake through the night chanting mantras.
I've noticed that in today's stressful world, people seem increasingly drawn to fierce deities like Kal Bhairav. Why do you think that is?
In times of uncertainty and rapid change, perhaps we need deities who acknowledge life's intensity rather than just its gentle aspects. Kal Bhairav doesn't sugarcoat reality. He represents time's relentless march and the inevitable confrontation with truth. Yet within that fierce reality, he offers protection and transformation.
That makes perfect sense. In a world full of distractions and superficiality, there's something refreshing about a deity who cuts through illusion and demands authenticity.
Indeed, and that may be Kal Bhairav's most relevant message for modern times. Face reality with courage, cut through falsehood with clarity, and recognize that time eventually reveals all truths. By embracing these principles, devotees find not fear, but liberation.
This has been such an enlightening journey into the mythology and significance of Kal Bhairav. We've traveled from the dramatic moment of his birth from Shiva's anger to his profound role as a symbol of ultimate reality.
And we've seen how beneath his fearsome appearance lies a deity who offers protection, discipline, and spiritual transformation. Whether as the guardian of Kashi, the destroyer of ego, or the embodiment of time itself, Kal Bhairav continues to inspire devotion and deep philosophical reflection.
Thank you for sharing these mystical tales with us, Professor Arjun, and thank you to our listeners for joining us on this journey into the spiritual dimensions of Hindu mythology. If you enjoyed this exploration, please subscribe and join us next time as we unravel another fascinating story from the world's spiritual traditions.
Until then, may Kal Bhairav grant you the courage to face life's challenges with clarity and conviction. Namaste.